Hi, this is Elise, and I'm going to show you a about 10-minute presentation on how to create the Librarian superhero trading cards. And I won't show you every single technique that I use, but I'll give you the gist of it. First, come under to File, New. These are the dimensions that I use, and this is seen in the handout as well, or I show it in the handout as well. Okay, here's a template that I'm starting out with, and I've already opened my photo of Caroline, and I've used the polygonal tool to lasso tool to sort of outline it. What I like about this tool is it allows you to just click different points along the way so you don't have to draw a straight line. Then when you hit the select tool, it turns it into a movable image so that we can just drag it and drop it into our new document. If you have Show Transform controls checked off in Photoshop, it'll allow you to resize this to fit a little better. And the way you get this to sort of deselect is by clicking this box tool right here and then applying. And now it's this new size. You see I didn't click around this very closely. What I'll do now is use the magic eraser tool in order to delete those white areas from around this. And I can't see all of them. I'm sure I'm missing a few, but when we put some background back there, if they show up, I'll use that again. So now we have the basic image. If you don't want to try and paint some of the figures like I did, a good filter that you can use under Filter is Brush Strokes and Accented Edges. That looks a little funny for her, but you can change the edge width, the edge brightness, and what's the thing for her that's causing it is the smoothness. But on some of the cards, like on Wendy's card, just doing this one filter alone sort of added enough of a comic book type look to her image. I didn't really like it for Caroline's, so I'm going to undo that one under Edit, Setup, Undo. But I am going to show you how to use that for the jacket. One tool that I use a lot is this gradient tool right here. I'm selecting the colors that I want for those little spirals that come out. The first thing I have to do though is create a new layer. You're going to create lots and lots of new layers. Each time you should name it whatever you're going to put in that layer. So I'm going to put circles here. And now I'm going to choose the colors for my circles. I want green circles. And I'm going to have them sort of change from green to yellow maybe. I've chosen the type of gradation that I want to happen. I've chosen the stripes. And I've chosen this round version so that it'll make the stripes in a circle rather than in a straight line, etc. And now I'm just going to draw out from one end to the other, and it will create my spirals. Now right now they are in front of her, and I want them to be behind her. So another thing you do a lot in Photoshop is you drag the layers around just by holding on to one of the layers and dragging it. You can also hide them so that you can see what things look like with or without them in the mix. You can also make them transparent by double clicking on one of them. You can change the transparency so they're not quite as bright, or you can do things like add a drop shadow or do a stroke, which is where you add another color to the item. So there's lots of fun things you can play around in. Just by double clicking on a layer, you can add some additional options to your layer. Now to show how I did the text layer down here, you just select a shape like the rectangle tool, for example. You cover the area you want the rectangle to be covered in. And then the pen tool is the one that you use to fill in that color. It's going to fill it with whatever the front box is colored. So I'm going to I just chose a color from her jacket, black. And now I'm going to put the pen tool anywhere. It doesn't matter. You just right click your cursor and these options come up. If you stroke the path, it's only going to create the outline of the rectangle. If you fill the path, it will fill it. And then afterwards you delete the path so that that line goes away. So I'm going to fill the path. And oh, it's actually, I didn't do a new layer, so it's coming in partly transparent because that circle layer is partly transparent. So I'm going to undo that and do a layer, new layer. And this is going to be black box. And now I can go ahead and fill that layer. And then I'm going to, if I wanted to stroke that with a different color, like the green, for example, then instead of doing fill, I would do stroke the path. And it's going to use whatever size brush I have currently selected, which is a pretty large size. It's 17, so I'm going to move this in front so you can see it a little better. So it's a pretty big line around there. I could make that a different size by just selecting my brush and saying I only want a 9. Then I'm going to do edit, undo layer, edit, step backwards. Okay. I am going to do the stroke now by clicking on the pen, stroke path, and now it's smaller because I'm using only the size 9 brush. I'm going to move that back in front of her again. And again, you just need to delete that when you're done. Delete that path, that line that goes through it. Now to do, if you thought that, oh, that's too big now, you just select on any of these objects by selecting on it. If you do the show transform, you can then make changes to the size and hit the box in order for it to apply that change. And then if you click on the tool button, you're going to need a color for the tool, for the text. Okay. And you can move that around. Again, any of these things, you can just click on them and then you can move them around. And then in order to make her jacket look sort of like color halftone, first I'm going to select her and I'm going to move her up a little bit. And then I'm going to have to move her circle up a little bit to match. Okay. I'm going to use this polyagonal tool again, and this time I'm just going to select her jacket so I don't have to get super close because she is, the only place I have to be close is around near her body because I don't want her skin to get pixelated, but otherwise it doesn't matter how close I get with this. So I'm just clicking around. Okay. Now I use the selection to select that area, and I want to make sure right now my circles are selected, so I want to make sure that the layer that I'm selecting is actually the jacket, which is the layer I want to pixelate. I'm going to do filter, and I'm going to use that brush strokes accented edges again, which I like, and I'm going to make these a little more accentuated, a little smoother, a little brighter. Okay. And now I am going to do filter. I'm going to change these colors to black and white. And I'm going to do filter, sketch, and then halftone pattern. And you can change the diameter of this to make it. And you can also look at any of your other patterns here to see what it would look like if you do photocopy or stamp, reticulation, note paper. I mean, this color that I have chosen doesn't make it very interesting, but the halftone pattern is what makes it look like a comic book. And that kind of creates that little bit of layer there. For doing the outlining, I use the pen tool and I just click around the area that I want to outline. I'll go ahead and do a view actual pixels so I can see it a little more close up, or you could even zoom in on it if you wanted to. And you just kind of make little anchor points around the eyebrow, and then you choose the color that you want for the eyebrow, like by clicking on the color box. Okay. And then you just right click on this arrow and you can say fill path, and it will fill in that eyebrow. And then if you wanted to outline that eyebrow with black, you change the color and then do, and 9 is way too big for that kind, so we're going to come in here and say I'm going to change that from 9 to about a 3. And then I'm going to do, instead of filling it, I'm going to stroke it, and that creates the outline. And then I'm going to delete it. And there is the outlined eyebrow, which looks funny when it's all by itself, but when you have the whole figure done, it won't look that funny. And again, you don't have to go into that much detail if you don't want to.